Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Today, we are going to talk about what you did last week, which was the comparing the two versions of The Old Man and the Sea in Indonesian, the two translations of the same novel. And the novel, The Old Man and the Sea, is one of the greatest works of Ernest Hemingway. Ernest Hemingway is a great man of letters who won Nobel Prize in Literature because of his works. And this novel, which is more like a novella because it's short, is very influential because it talks about the struggle of a man who once had his glory in his younger years, but now is somewhat fighting or struggling with what remains of his glory. You can find more about this novel if you want to know, further. Okay. Now, what we are going to compare today is the translations uh, that have been done by two different people. And the two translations were not only done by different people, but also done in different periods of time. The first one that I gave you was by Yuni Kristianingsih Pramudaningrat, a translator who is actually based in Malang. But she's famous. She's translated a lot of works, and this one is particularly important because it was published by a major publisher who is known for the quality of its translations. And the second one is a slightly older translation, which is originally from 1973 by Sapardi Djoko Damono. Sapardi Djoko Damono is an influential was an influential poet and translator and writer and literary critic, and he passed away not so long ago. And this translation was originally published in 1973 by Pustaka Jaya, a major publisher. And recently it was published by Gramedia. The one that I gave you is from Gramedia, which was published in 2016. I'm not really sure how they are, but seems like they are, the 1973 translation and 2016 translations, they are basically the same, but published by different publishers. But since it was published in 2016, then let's consider this translation to be a current one because a publisher still believes that it still works, okay? And now we are going to compare these two translations, and we're not we're not going to find which one is the best and which one is uh, less good. There's no need to do that. Both have been published by different major publishers. Both of them are good. I mean, the publishers, they are good, and we don't need to argue about that. But we will need to see the strategies that each of this translation seems to apply, appears to apply, okay? And we can actually see that quite clearly. And now we are going to highlight the first two pages only until the first dialogue, okay? Now let us see the translations. Okay. Yes. Here you have The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. The first one that I wanted to show you is the original work, of course. And these are the areas in which we can find some differences or things to compare between the two translations. The first one is the first sentence in which the writer says, "He was an old man who fished alone in a skiff in the Gulf Stream, and he had gone 84 days now without taking a fish." That's the first line, and it is a famous first line because it shows some kind of failure right in the opening sentence. All right, now let us see how Yuni Kristianingsih translated this. Dialah lelaki tua yang memancing ikan sendirian di sebuah perahu di perairan arus teluk. Dan kini telah genap 84 hari dia gagal menangkap seekor ikan pun. That's one. And compare it to this one by Sapardi Djoko Damono. Ia seorang lelaki tua yang sendiri saja dalam sebuah perahu, penangkap ikan di arus Teluk Meksiko, dan kini sudah genap 84 hari lamanya, tidak berhasil menangkap ikan seekor pun. If you see this and this, you will see that there are two different structures in the translation. In the sentence, I mean. Here, dialah lelaki tua yang memancing ikan sendirian di sebuah perahu di perairan arus teluk, period, or a comma. Dan kini telah genap 84 hari, dia gagal menangkap seekor ikan pun. This one is different. Ia seorang lelaki tua yang sendiri saja dalam sebuah perahu, koma, penangkap ikan di arus teluk Meksiko, dan kini sudah genap 84 hari lamanya. If you compare these two sentences, we know that the sentence by Yuni Kristianingsih reads more smoothly. She cuts the sentence in two, and each of the two parts is a clause, okay? And it reads more smoothly. While this one, Sapardi Djoko Damono, he cuts his sentences into two, but in a somewhat strange way. Here, the comma is behind perahu, which means the rest of the sentence is like an objective clause, a clause that explains perahu. And that is not really the case, but the way he punctuates that makes it sound like that. And in that word, in other words, Yuni Kristianingsih has a smoother translation, while Sapardi Djoko Damono, he's not like that. He doesn't have, his sentence is less smooth. And there is also a different translation. Here, the Gulf Stream from Ernest Hemingway is translated into Arus Teluk by Yuni Kristianingsih. And if you search Arus Teluk on Google, you will find that this is the Indonesian translation of Gulf Stream. While Ernest Hemingway chose to translate it, while Sapardi Djoko Damono chose to translate it into Arus Teluk Meksiko. Here, he does some kind of interpolation to make Gulf Stream more relatable to an Indonesian audience. Because in Indonesia, we don't know when somebody says Arus Teluk, which Teluk. There are so many Teluks in the world. While here, to make it clearer, Sapardi Djoko Damono chose to translate it into Teluk Meksiko. This shows that this translator wants to give more information to make readers know the context of the story. Now, leave it that way. First, Sapardi Djoko Damono is less clear in terms of, less smooth in terms of the sentence. And second, he wants to be clearer in terms of the reference, in terms of the details. Now let's go to the second sentence, second part that we want to translate. But after 40 days without a fish, the boy's parents had told him that the old man was now definitely and finally salau, which is the worst form of unlucky. And the boy had gone at their orders in another boat, which caught 3 good fish in the first week. Here, we will find the difference in actually 2 ways. First one is related to the word salau here. Here, Yuni Kristianingsih translates salau into, still salau, but the additional information is only nahas, while in the original it says the worst form of unlucky, bentuk ketidakberuntungan yang paling parah, paling jelek. While here only nahas. And we have the impression when somebody says nahas, it means negative, it means bad, right? Now, let us see how Sapardi Djoko Damono translated it. in Sapardi's translation, we have selama 40 hari pertama, ia ditemani oleh seorang anak laki-laki. I guess that's the same sentence, right? Right. Then, tetapi setelah 40 hari itu berlalu tanpa menangkap ikan seekor pun, maka ayah dan ibu anak itu mengatakan, sekarang sudah jelas dan pasti bahwa si lelaki tua itu salau, yakni paling sial di antara yang sial. Dan atas perintah orang tuanya, anak itu kemudian ikut perahu lain yang berhasil menangkap 3 ekor ikan besar selama minggu pertama. Here, Sapardi Djoko Damono preserves the worst form of unlucky into yakni paling sial di antara yang sial. It sounds clearer because it is somewhat equivalent to the original translation, right? Although structurally not. Structurally, it's the worst form of unlucky. But here, paling sial di antara yang sial. But still, he maintains that there is that clause. Dan atas perintah orang tuanya, anak itu kemudian ikut perahu lain yang berhasil menangkap 3 ekor ikan, bla bla bla. Now, here in Yuni Kristianingsih, atas perintah mereka ke perahu dan anak itu pun pergi meninggalkannya atas perintah mereka. Mereka here referring to the parents, I guess. Mereka ke perahu lain yang berhasil menangkap 3 ekor ikan besar, yada yada yada. Oke. Dan anak itu pun pergi meninggalkannya. Nya here refers to the old man. So it is simpler, meninggalkannya atas perintah mereka using the objective pronoun, right? While in Sapardi Djoko Damono here, we see that dan atas perintah orang tuanya, still using orang tuanya, anak itu kemudian ikut perahu lain yang berhasil menangkap 3 ikan besar selama seminggu. Oke. Alright. So here, Sapardi Djoko Damono prefers to use orang tuanya instead of saying mereka. That way, it is more accurate in terms of reference. There is no ambiguity when you say orang tuanya because there is orang tua here. But when you say mereka, there is some sort of ambiguity, but it's not really ambiguous. It's not really difficult to make sense of. Okay, from here we can say that in Sapardi Djoko Damono's translation, he wants to preserve the clause that explains salau, and second, he also uses orang tua, which is more accurate to avoid or to prevent any ambiguity. While here, salau is translated into nahas, and the clause is gone. It is contracted into one word. And that one word, although it's not really clear what it means, it gives the impression of badness, a bad situation. And instead of using orang tua atau lelaki tua, this translation prefers to use meninggalkannya and perahu mereka. So not really clear, but it's smooth. It's understandable. It's also it's still understandable. You can make sense of it. Again, in Sapardi Djoko Damono now, you know that he is more accurate in terms of translating. But Yuni Kristianingsih, she is more smooth in terms of the sentence, and it gives the impression, the connotation of badness without really saying word by word what the badness is. Now let's go to the third one. This will take quite a while now, but it is important for you to see that these two translations are different and they can do, both of them work or can achieve what the text actually wants to say. Okay, there's so many mosquitoes here, guys. All right, now let's go to the third part. It made the boy sad to see the old man come in each day with his skiff empty, and he always went down to help him carry either the coiled line or the gaff and harpoon, and the sail that was furled around the mast. That's the original sentence. Now, what does Yuni Kristianingsih did to this? She uses she used this translation. Anak lelaki itu sedih melihat si lelaki tua pulang setiap hari dengan perahu yang kosong, dan dia selalu turun untuk membantunya membawa sebagian gulungan tali atau tombak seruit dan layar yang digulung di tiang perahu. What does the boy help carry? He helps carry, in the original, coiled lines or the gaff and the harpoon and the sail that was furled around the mast. Three things. But what we have here is only gulungan tali atau tombak seruit dan layar yang digulung. While in the original there is gaff and harpoon. Here we only have tombak seruit dan layar yang digulung di tiang perahu. The same. So instead of 3, she puts only 2. But yeah, tombak seruit, if you know tombak seruit, or if you look it up in the dictionary, you will see that tombak seruit is harpoons or some kind of tombak that people use for fishing big fish. While here in Sapardi Djoko Damono's translation, we have anak itu merasa kasihan setiap kali menyaksikan si lelaki tua yada dengan perahu kosong, dan ia pun selalu datang untuk menolongnya membawakan gulungan tali atau kait besar dan kait kecil. Gaff and harpoon are translated as kait besar dan kait kecil, serta layar yang tergulung di tiang and so on, which is the same. So here we have Sapardi Djoko Damono's preserving all the 4 elements, coiled lines, gaff, and a harpoon, and the sail wrapped furled around the mast. But it's translated into gulungan tali, kait besar, dan kait kecil. More accurate in terms of the number, but kait besar dan kait kecil here, as far as I'm concerned, does not really give the impression of what this thing looks like. It is not very specific. If you Google, for example, kait besar, there are so many things. It can be a kite for something, or it can be anything, and so on. But it's not really sure what kite here actually means. But with tombak seruit, you have the impression of a harpoon, at least a harpoon. So that's what we can find as a difference. Here again, it's more specific, more accurate, but this one fails to provide the imagery of fishing instruments. While in here in Yuni Kristianingsih's translation, we have a more, let's say, it gives a better impression of what the boy actually helps carry. And last one, for now, I guess, let us look at this here. The sail was patched with flour sacks and furled. It looked like the flag of permanent defeat. Intinya adalah layarnya ditambal dengan kain karung, dan ketika tergulung, layar itu tampak seperti bendera kekalahan abadi. Now in Yuni Kristianingsih, we have this. Layar itu telah bertambal karung-karung tepung, dan dalam keadaan tergulung seperti itu, tampak seperti bendera kekalahan abadi. Which is pretty much like how I understood it. Now, in Sapardi Djoko Damono's translation, layar, I'm sorry, it's not really clear there. Let me fix the box. Okay, I hope it's clear now. Ya, layar itu bertambal karung gandum, dan kalau tergulung di tiang, tampak seperti panji-panji tanda takluk abadi. It's pretty much the same. Instead of saying karung tepung, it says karung gandum. More specific, yeah. What kind of tepung? Tepung gandum, not tepung beras or tepung anything. Yeah, it preserves the the original reference. So we can say it's, again, Sapardi Djoko Damono here is more, let's say, more accurate. And the language is actually more beautiful in Sapardi Djoko Damono's translation. It uses panji-panji instead of just bendera. And instead of kekalahan abadi, it uses takluk abadi. So this language is more, I would say, more well selected, I guess. It sounds more poetic to use a common term, a layman's term, but we're not heading there. So instead of kekalahan, he uses takluk. Instead of bendera, he uses panji-panji. But again, Yuni Kristianingsih's translation sounds smooth and fine, and we don't feel like we lose anything in her translation. While in Sapardi Djoko Damono's translation, we have a more, I have to say that this language is more beautiful in this sentence, and the reference is more specific. Instead of karung tepung, any tepung, he uses karung gandum. Okay, and we can go on and on here, but I can say that from this first paragraph only, we can say that Yuni Kristianingsih has a smoother translation in terms of the language, and she is quite brave in making maneuvers to make the line sounds to make the line sound smooth and more. It provides more impression or more imagination because of the use of say like tombak seruit or not being too specific, so that, or let us say it's different from this translation by Sapardi Djoko Damono, in which he tries to preserve everything and tries to use more specific information. And eventually what we have is, if you go to find the details, then in Sapardi Djoko Damono you can find details that actually you can also find in Ernest Hemingway. But when you read to enjoy the literary work, to eventually get absorbed into it, then the chances of you being more successful in reading Sapardi Djoko Damono is smaller. I mean, if you want to be drowned into the story, then Yuni Kristianingsih can help you do that better. So that's what I can show you from the comparison. And here, if we use Clifford Lander's statement on the two types of translators, the one which is sorcerer, and the other one which is targeteer, we can say quite positively that Sapardi Djoko Damono is more on the sorcerer type, and Yuni Kristianingsih is more on the targeteer type. Yuni Kristianingsih has made the work more smooth and easier to read, and it also gives the impression that we need without being too specific. While Sapardi Djoko Damono, he preserves the translation so that if we want to go deep into the story and to analysis, then it is more possible for us to do that. So we can safely say that. And I think this is somewhat confirmed by the fact that Sapardi Djoko Damono is an academician. He was a professor in literature, and while also a writer. But in this case, I think Clifford Landers is right that academicians, when they translate, they tend to be more on the sorcerer type. And Sapardi Djoko Damono, even though he was a writer, he was a poet, and he also wrote novels, still his probably his academic side was stronger when he translated. And I guess That's all I can compare for from these two translation. Now, I hope there's something from this translation that can make you that you can take away later as you translate more prose. What I wanted to say here is that you can either be a targeteer or be a sorcerer, but still you can be good at both. What you create will be as readable, but what you offer will be different. If you are more on the targeteer side, then what you offer is the flow, the smoothness of reading, and the easier or the bigger possibility for people to get absorbed into your story. But if you are on the sorcerer type, what you want to offer is the clarity, details, and the possibility for people to do analysis on the work, especially content analysis, just as one can do a content analysis on an original work. I guess that's all for now. I will give you further explanations about what you will need to do uh, in the next activity. Bye, guys.